my advice would be just keep going and don't let any little voices of doubt overtake what you want to do and what your vision is.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to the Talk About the Magic podcast, where you'll find inspiration and encouragement tied together with the magic of Disney. Now, here's your host, Joseph Ballesteros.
What is going on, Magicteers? Welcome to Talk About the Magic, episode 121. I'm so excited that you are joining me today. I'm excited for today's guest. Her name is Shannon, and her Instagram account is Going to Guides, and I'm really happy to have her on. She actually is the author of 2 books, Going to Disneyland and Going to Disneyland California Adventure. It's really, the books are great. Of course, we'll have the links and everything in the show notes, but it's kind of focused on something that you can actually read along with your kids, so to me, this got me pumped because a lot of, books that are out there to help you explore Disney and everything like that are geared toward adults. They're really meant for adults. If I give my kid the book, my son or my daughter the book, they're just going to kind of look at the pictures. This one is really much more for the kids as well as the parents. Obviously there's words so the parents can read, but at the same time, the words are good for the children too. And so, for them to understand. So I think this is really cool because even as a child, they can start learning all the secrets and all these, best ways to do things at Disneyland. I think that's really cool. So I'm just, as you can tell, I'm pumped to have her on here. So be sure to go follow her at her Instagram and her website as well. Before we get into the show, if you're not aware, I have been doing daily podcasts, Monday through Friday. Saturday is catch-up day, I like to say. So Monday through Friday, and then of course Sunday being the way we've always done it, which is having a guest on and hearing their awesome stories. But Monday through Friday, it is a Disney style podcast, nothing long, about 5-10 minutes, the longest. I don't do an hour a day or anything like that. Just because I want to give y'all hopefully a little fun Disney during your day to start off your day. So if you aren't subscribed to the podcast already, please be sure to do that so you don't miss those shows. And of course, on those shows, I usually ask a question, and if you answer that question, you will probably get a shout out. Maybe not that episode, but in the next one or the next one or the next one or the next one. So I've been having so much fun doing those shows. I really hope you guys will check that out, and hopefully you'll join in on the fun and answer some of these questions and get your shout out. And if you are wanting to help the podcast, you know that there are 2 awesome and easy ways to do it. Number one is you could either go to Amazon to use my affiliate link if you shop at Amazon, or if you know somebody who shops at Amazon, just give them my affiliate link, talkaboutthemagic.com/Amazon Magic. That'll be helping out the show and the podcast so much, and you guys still get to shop and buy whatever it is you want from Amazon. So there's a plus. And of course, second would be to become a patron. If you personally can actually be a part of this show, behind the scenes, interacting, talking, letting me know what you think about what's going on with Disney and about the podcast and everything like that. If you head over to patreon.com/talkaboutthemagic, that's patreon.com/talkaboutthemagic, you'll check out the rewards there. We got monthly Disney pins, monthly Disney treats. It's just a lot of fun. So be sure to check it out there and become a Patreon today. Now let's go ahead and get into our wonderful interview today with Shannon. Hello, Shannon. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, I'm glad to be here again.
I was about to say to the Magicteers listening, let me go ahead and give you a brief story. We did this whole interview. So excited. I tested my software like I do every interview, and this only has happened one time before. But basically, after our entire interview, I stopped the recording, and it said, hey, nothing recorded. I don't know why that happened. And I apologize to Shannon, over and over, because this is not okay. But hopefully, if you're hearing this, that means it worked. So that's good.
Yes. Fingers crossed.
Oh, but thank you again, Shannon. Yes, for being here. I said I wanted to have you back on the show, so this kind of worked out.
I didn't know it would be so soon.
So soon, exactly. But you and I first were introduced through Angela, who was on the show recently. At Dislights is her Instagram. And she told me, really check out what Shannon's doing. She has these wonderful books. I checked them out. I was really I really enjoyed right off the bat the artwork. I like how, in your video, obviously, you show kind of a flip book of showing everything that's in the book kind of real quick. But
Mm-hmm.
for everybody who doesn't know already, though, can you give an idea of just a brief background on who Shannon is?
Yes. And I'm so glad that Angela told you about me, and she's wonderful. And I loved hearing her story on your show, her podcast. That was great. I am a graphic designer and illustrator, and I run my own business. I'm a freelancer, and I've been doing that since, well, quite a while. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Now, an illustrator, is that literally like drawing, like art kind of stuff, or is that?
Yes.
That is so cool.
Yes.
Because that's something I
Yeah.
didn't ask before, but now I'm interested in that.
Yeah. I draw with pen and ink, and then I also draw on the computer. And it's fun to do different styles. And so illustration basically means drawing, and graphic design could be anything from laying out an ad to making a sign, or anything that's graphic arts.
Did you draw your image here on Skype?
I did. Yes.
What?
I did.
Okay, guys,
Yeah.
y'all a little confused. So she got on Skype, and on Skype you're able to put your picture or whatever you want for your profile. And I told Shannon when we started, I said I just assumed this was you because the Snow White as the profile picture, and that is a fantastic Snow White, Shannon.
Thank you.
So cool.
She's from the cover of my my first book. Yeah, there's
That's
the
awesome.
little characters across the bottom. I call them cute characters, and so that's what she's from.
So you actually did the artwork in the book for your own book?
Yes, I did the artwork, but I also got about a dozen contributing artists to. What I did was I looked for people that had already done really cute Disney art. Like I found a lot of people on Etsy,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, would you mind if I showed your artwork in my book? And so for them, it's kind of like a free ad for their art.
Mm-hmm.
People might see their image in my book and then go to their Etsy shop and get a print or get buttons or whatever they make. So there's about a dozen contributing artists in both of my books, and some of them are the same and some are only in one book or only in the other book. But it's really fun because it makes the artwork throughout the book like a mixture of styles, which I think is really, really fun.
Yeah, that is so cool. I love that too, that you were able to find people like that to contribute in that way. I mean, I know if somebody came up to me and was like, hey, would you like to be featured in a book? I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. And then it was also great because some of the artists were really excited and wanted to do something especially for the book, and then later sell prints of that or whatever they wanted to do with it. And so that was really cool too. And that happened a lot more in the second book because, people could see the first one and how it turned out and that kind of thing. And then also I took a lot of the photos in the book, but not most of them. Most of the photos are by Dave DeCaro, who does the Daveland Web website and blog, which is really, I highly recommend that. He's an amazing photographer, and his blog has great stories about Disneyland, and he has a lot of vintage photos, and so yeah, he was great. And his photos are throughout the book and on the cover.
So what was then your original kind of, like, where did this idea even come from? Because being that you're an artist and illustrator and a fantastic one at that, but, being that you have all this, I mean, you've kind of, quote unquote, set your path, this is what I'm going to do for my life. What made you start even thinking, I'm going to kind of try writing this book here?
Well, I have two sons, and when my older son was 7, we were planning a trip to Disneyland. And so we went to the library, and I picked up a guidebook, and then I thought, I'm going to go into the children's section and get a book for him so that he can start learning about the park and get excited about it. And there was not a book like that. And so I looked into it a little bit more, online and different bookstores, and I couldn't find a book like what I was picturing anywhere. And I was really surprised that nothing like that existed. So being a graphic designer and an illustrator, I thought, oh my God, and a huge fan of Disneyland, I thought, oh my God, this would be the best project in the world to make this book myself. So I started to work on it.
I love that too because it's something that that we didn't discuss in that first part that I'm thinking about is they always say when you see a problem, figure out a solution. And it's
Right.
funny because sometimes your solution, or your not to say a problem in a negative way, but your idea can come from just actually what's happening inside your own family. We always think of
Right.
this, we always think it has to be some major, huge idea, that's going to change the world. But it's like, no, it could be simply to change your own world, and then you'll be surprised at how many more people are affected by it. So I love that.
Yeah.
Now, what was your process? I have a couple of friends who've been on the show and other people who are interested in, and one in particular I'm thinking that he is actually working on kind of his own Disneyland style book. But what was your process to write these books? Did you have to, like use a certain pen? Was it only certain typewriters that you would only use? Did you go into a log cabin, say nobody leave me, everybody leave me alone, kind of deal? What was the process?
Okay, well, I first had the idea in 2007, and then my first book came out in 2015. So it was almost 8 years of working on it, and I took a lot of notes. I did a lot of online research. Of course, going to the park helped. Reading other books about the park. And as far as like just writing it, I mean, I would just mostly write it on the computer and just kind of work on it whenever I could find the time, in addition to all the other things I was doing. My kids were both pretty small. Like I said, my older son was 7, and then his younger brother was 2. So I had my hands full. So I just kind of worked on it whenever I could, but it would often get put on the back burner, which is why it took me almost 8 years to finish it.
and how was that? How was that feeling too? Because I think when right now you're saying this, and it kind of just sparked a question in my head, which was, yeah, you're going to the parks, you have this idea, so you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I need to do some research. But what was your what did you do? Like, did you just walk in the park and like just talk to cast members? Did you try to set up a meeting with a top person there at Disney to give you all the inside details? What was your idea of going? Because I can only imagine, like for me, like I'd be overwhelmed, right? Like I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, what do? I don't know who to talk to. I don't know, and of course you can't really trust the internet anymore. That's for sure. I mean, you're gonna go Disney
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, Disney's still alive somewhere. So
Right.
what was your how did you get over that initially to really know your goal and how to get your information you needed?
Well, at the beginning, it really was overwhelming because I wasn't sure how I was going to organize everything. There's so many details about Disneyland, and so it was like, how am I going to do this? And then when you visit the park, especially when I have my kids with me, I have this whole list of things I want to find out or check on, but you're kind of like, let's go on the teacups, and it's very easy to get distracted, especially when you're there with your kids, because you just want to have fun. I never like officially talked to anyone at the park, but I always talk to cast members, and I love talking to them. And most of them just absolutely love what they're doing, and they have such great stories, and so I definitely love talking with them. Let's see, did I answer everything?
Yeah, no, you did. But yeah, that's
Okay.
what I was asking as far as how that went, because like I said, feeling overwhelmed, I should say, and getting the information that you need, because research is, depending who you are, the funnest part of a project or the worst part of the project. Now, obviously, Disneyland,
Well,
like you just said, you can get sidetracked to make it fun if you're doing
Right.
that. But I thought that was really interesting because I think, especially when we're trying to do projects, like for me, when I started doing podcasts, I started, trying to get information on how to do it and stuff. And there are just thousands upon thousands of different tutorials, different people telling you to do different, doing it different ways. And, being that this was going to be kind of your project of writing a book about Disneyland and experiencing it with kids and, your tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff, I just thought, like, how do you get into that? What's your mindset? So I totally understand what you're saying as far as being able to talk to people, but yes, I do agree with that. I think you would find me basically more on the teacups more than anything else. When my wife would check on me, I'd be like, it's for
Yeah.
research kind of deal, just swinging by on there.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
what was a difficult thing that you encountered when writing this book or your books?
Um, well, the first book was definitely more difficult because, like I said, I had to figure out how I was going to organize it all. And when I finally figured that out, it really got exciting because I could, I could see, oh my gosh, I see how this is going to all fit together now. So working on the second book, well, my first book is for the Disneyland park. My second book is for Disney California Adventure. So what was so fun about the second book was it was the exact same format. I didn't have to figure all that out. I could just plug in the elements of California Adventure into that same format. So the difficult part was figuring that out. And once I figured that out, it's just, like so fun to just make the next book. And now I'm working on a book for Magic Kingdom in Florida. And, it's a blast. Like, what's more fun to research and, write about
Exactly.
than a Disney park? It's like,
Now, was that kind of like an epiphany you had, or did you do a lot of trial and error to kind of finally figure out that?
oh, yeah, a lot of trial and error. I mean, I have this box of like, old cover designs and notes, like there'll be a thing of notes, and then probably 6 months later I wrote the same notes, but it was like, I had gotten busy and forgotten. And, so, that first part was definitely tough. And once I got that figured out, it was just great. A wonderful feeling.
I love that because, again, we always look at our heroes and we think like, oh, that's so cool. I want to do what they do. I want to be like them. But we never see what it actually took for them to get there. All of those, like you just said, I mean, they, boxes full of notes that they had to do, whether they were doing sports, whatever they, everybody had somewhere they had a point they had to figure out. They had to say, okay, I'm not going to let this stop me. I need to figure out what this is. And yeah, sometimes it comes in a form of, you have to get better at basketball. If you want to be a basketball player, you got to keep practicing every day kind of deal. If you're a podcaster, you got to figure out how to run machines and how to avoid mistakes like we just had today. So I mean, there's a ton of things, but I love that because it shows that in the end you can get past that. So I always wonder that though, because I've heard so many interviews where the person will say something like that, like, once I figured it out, and I'm like, okay, hold on, let's get real. Did you figure it out because it just came while you were sleeping one night, or did you figure it out because it was a lot of work that you had to do first to figure it out? And
right.
And it can come in both ways, but I always want to know that process because I think it makes us feel a lot better when we realize that we're doing a lot of work to kind of get to that moment ourselves. So
yeah, definitely.
Not only one. So what would you then suggest for that person who wants to get into writing? Maybe they're starting to be a blogger, or maybe they're even trying to write their own kind of book themselves. What would be your advice for them?
My number one tip would be to get someone else who's like kind of like a buddy system. Because, like, for example, if your New Year's resolution was to exercise and walk every day, it's really easy to blow that off and go, I'll walk tomorrow. But if you have a walking partner and that person is calling you and going, hey, what time are we walking today? It'll make you do it because you've got that other person kind of holding you accountable. So my number one tip would be, get a friend or someone whose opinion you respect. And, maybe that friend has a project and you can help them, check up on their project. They'll check up on your project. And then you're like, really, you've got that in the back of your head. Like, okay, I don't want to, write this page I need to write, but so-and-so is expecting me to show it to them next week. So I better get going, so that really helps. Cause like I said, it took me so long to work on my book, but when I got my publisher and the publisher put me in touch with the editor and they were expecting me to produce and finish the book, I started working on it so much more quickly because someone was actually really expecting me to get it to on a certain date, so it got real. But But before that, I had some friends. One friend of mine is an editor, and another friend, she's really creative and in a lot of different ways. And I showed them early drafts of the book, and that really helped because first of all, they were excited about it and said they thought it was a great idea. And then they had a bunch of, ideas and different ways I could do it. Like my friend who's an editor, it was really funny because I remember we went to this cafe and I showed her the proposal letter I was working on. And the letter was really fun. Like I had all these pictures sprinkled in with the text. It had this great border. It was just this really engaging thing that you wanted to look at. And then I showed her my draft of the chapter and she goes, "Why is this letter so fun looking? And then I look over at your book and it's like boring." And I was like, "Oh my God, you're right." Why does it look so boring? Because there was so much text I was trying to squeeze in and, so I just kept thinking of that the whole time I worked on it. Like I've got to remember that, I really want this to look visually fun as that letter had looked. So, I who knows how, maybe I would have figured that out on my own eventually, but when she said that to me, it was just like a total light bulb moment. Like, oh my gosh, she's right. What am I doing? So
having support like that is priceless. It really is, to have somebody on your corner to help you out. And maybe they're not helping you out literally in the sense of like, they're working on the project with you, but they're helping you out in the way of, like you just said, they're giving you not only encouragement, but constructive criticism, not just breaking your idea down. So that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
Now we are at the point of our Disney Power Round.
Okay, I'm ready.
And now it's time for the Disney Power Round, where we talk favorite parks, tips, and tricks for your magical Disney trip. Let's bibbidi-bobbidi do this.
What is your favorite park, and what is one thing that you love about it?
Well, my favorite park is Disneyland, which probably comes as no surprise to you.
Literally.
And I knew you were going to ask me this because I listened to your show with Angela. So I've thought a lot about this because first I thought, how can you say one favorite thing about the park? Like there's too many things. And so it took me a long time to figure out what I would say. But my answer is a light bulb. So at the end of Main Street, USA, there's the refreshment corner. And there's, in the entryway, the light bulbs alternate white, red, white, red. And it does that all over the building. But in the entryway, the story goes that there were two white light bulbs right next to each other. And Walt Disney came along and said, these light bulbs aren't alternating. Paint this white light bulb half white and half red so that the colors will still go white, red, white, red. So it's still there to this day. And I don't know if it just hasn't burned out or if they keep replacing it, but it's still there. And I think it's a perfect symbol of how much care and attention to detail that they put into the park. So that's my favorite thing.
That is such a unique story. And like I said, I had never heard that story prior to you telling me. So hopefully I know there's Magic Cheers listening who've never heard it either. I can't say I haven't heard it before because I just heard it 5 minutes, about 15 minutes ago. But still, I love hearing it again. It's such a good point. And again, yes, Disney. I think that's what it's hard to explain what Disney is to people who've never been and don't understand. They're always like, "Why do you want to go there? It's for kids." But it's like when you hear a story like that, it's like that's what you get when you go to Disney. You get this level of honestly very hard to match perfection. Like it's just there, and there's not many places in this world that really strive to meet that kind of level of goal that they want to make sure everybody experiences, their park the way it's supposed to be. So, I really do enjoy that story. So, what would be your tip for that first time Disney goer?
Well, I guess it's probably a pretty common tip, but just relax and don't worry about trying to do everything because you probably couldn't even if you tried. But a lot of people, they go and they didn't do this or they didn't do that and they get all hung up on it. And it's like, just relax because you can go back. You can go back anytime and just take it for what it is and just enjoy it. Especially, I just went to Magic Kingdom for the first time in a really long time. And I did the same thing. I was like, oh, I should have done it this way or that way. And, you kind of can't help it. But I had fun. I was like, okay, next time I'll do this differently, but whatever, it was great, So just enjoy it for what it is.
Awesome. So what would be your tip then for somebody who goes to Disney multiple times?
My tip for that person would be to look around and see if there's someone you can help. A lot of people have on those first visit buttons, or you can just tell that they have no clue where they're going. They've got their map open. This friend of mine, I was just at the park with her recently, and she was going up to so many families and saying, they're taking a picture and one person's not in the picture because they're, taking of everyone else. And she went up to them and was like, let me take that so you can all be in it together. And she was just spreading that joy to them, because then they were like, oh, thank you. That's so nice of you. And now they've got this great picture where everyone's in there together. And, I was really impressed by her doing that. And I think that's a wonderful thing to do when, you're not in such a rush to get to that ride or that attraction because you're there all the time. So look around and, how can you help someone else have that great first visit?
Yeah, that's so true. Some of these people's first visit is actually their last visit for a good many years. And so to help them experience even more Disney, who doesn't love to get a smile? You know what I mean? So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great story. Now, before we do sign off here, if you can give everyone listening where you would like for them to kind of see more of Shannon, whether it's your Instagram account, your website, of course, the books, just go ahead and plug away.
Plug away. Okay, so there's my book, Going to Disneyland, and then there's my second book, which is Going to Disney California Adventure. And they're both available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and at goingtoguides.com, which is my website. So when you buy a book there, you can get it signed or inscribed or both. And if you want a special inscription, you can request an extra super duper swirly whirly inscription. And I'll add doodles, and there's a book plate built into the first page of the book where it says this book belongs to a super cool person named, and then there's a blank. And so I'll write the person's name, and I also include a bookmark, a sticker, and fan club cards. And then the person can fill them out with their name. So that's a fun way to order it because you get those things for free along with the book. The cheapest place is to usually get it is Amazon because they often have discounts. So, yes, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I have an Etsy shop where I make things that use artwork from the book or from the books, like buttons, stickers, bookmarks, a bandana, pouches, like little zip pouches and things like that. So
now I'm going to put that all in the show notes, of course, guys. And the book, I do want to kind of, again, it's not just for kids, but I love the idea of something that you said on the first interview that I remember now is how you were saying how, you actually have these words that if they're, they're a little maybe too big for a young one reading, you actually have a definition for it as well. So I really do like that aspect of it because for my own kids, this is our only Disney until we get to go to Disney. And so being able to experience that with them, and then not only that, but also that they're learning as a parent, that's always a plus. So that's good.
Yes, that's right. We talked about that before in the first version. When I was making the books, I definitely tried to make them not just for kids, but for kids at heart. Because there's so many adults that love the parks and love to have fun. And, I also really tried to make them very interactive. So there's tons of places where you can fill in blanks or draw a picture. There's a built-in scrapbook in the back. And the second book has a built-in trip journal in the front for like planning your trip. So once you're done with the book, my goal was that it becomes this wonderful souvenir because you filled in so many things yourself into the book or gotten character autographs into the back.
Yes.
So, yeah, I really tried to make it so that it would be fun for anyone, no matter what their age, just like Disneyland.
That is so cool. Yeah. Character autographs are a huge, huge thing for us. We love doing that.
Yeah, it's so fun.
So much fun. So before we do sign off here, though, Shannon, I always like to let our guests leave some words of advice, inspiration to our listeners, our Magic Cheers here. Maybe they might be on the fence, or maybe they've even tried to start pursuing their goal and then they got knocked down, or maybe they're just saying, why should I try? What would be your advice to them? What would be some words of inspiration for them today?
Well, I definitely in my life have started a million projects and gotten very excited about them, and then they've just fizzled out. It's happened to me many, many times. So my advice would be just keep going and don't let any little voices of doubt overtake what you want to do and what your vision is. Get someone, a friend or somebody who's kind of expecting you to, complete the next phase, have that other person who's kind of holding you accountable. That helped me a lot. And plus that outside person will bring up things that you never even considered, or, you never, wow, I never thought of it that way. It just really helps to get that outside perspective for sure.
Awesome. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining me again on the show. I really do apologize for the mishap on this first time. But you know what, guys? It happens. Sometimes this stuff happens, and I'm so grateful for wonderful guests like Shannon who have every right to say, to be gone with you. I will never speak to you again. But they choose to give out more of their time so they can come on the show and talk and inspire you guys who are listening. So Shannon, thank you so much, guys. Be sure to follow Shannon on all of her social media. Be sure to get her book. Of course, the link will be there on the website. I know I'm going to be getting my copy, so when I go to D23, hopefully this year, I will not be completely lost. So thank you so much, Shannon, for being on.
Thank you. And you know what? I liked the second version better anyway. So
awesome. Perfect.
It all happened for a reason.
Great. Thank you so much. You have to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Like, I understand this sounds so simple, right? Keep going or you'll never get where you need to be. Like, obviously, if you want to get to point B, you got to go from point A. But, it's funny because life happens. Things happen. We get obstacles or we get distracted, and before you know it, we stop going after that thing that we had a passion for, that we had a dream, we had a desire, we had a goal to achieve. And it's not a good thing, because before you know it, you're realizing I'm not where I wanted to be, that I said I wanted to be, a year ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And you're having to start all over, and it's frustrating. It's not something that you can't, in other words, go back in time. You can't do a redo and say, hey, my bad, I'll do it seriously this time. And that's why it's so important to don't let yourself get, down when you aren't doing what you're supposed to do. When you get distracted, or when you realize like, oh my goodness, I had these goals and ideas and I didn't achieve it. Don't let yourself get down, and don't tell yourself, I'll start next year. It's important for you to start now and keep going. You could take a break. That happens, but you got to keep going. I mean, this story with Shannon, I love it because 7 years is a long time. And, since we did 2 interviews, I don't remember if I said it on the first one or the second one, Shannon, sorry. But I had mentioned 7 years is a long time, and I know myself. I know 7 years would probably be a good enough reason for me to quit and say, whether on purpose or accidental, whether I got distracted or, anything like that, to say, yeah, I'll do it another time. And that's why, like Shannon said, it's important to have people around you. If you can find people around you who can, support you and tell you like, hey, keep going. Be very grateful for those people. And if you don't have those people, that's why people like me are here. Is that proper grammar? That's why people like No. That's why people like me are. That's why just don't judge it. Don't judge my grammar. But that's why people like myself are here. This is tough. And I'm going to leave this in here because I'm being honest with you, right? I have these imperfections, but that's what I feel so excited to do. I love to talk with people and to hopefully help them, even if it's just to get, allow them to vent. And I'm not the only one like that. I mean, there's Facebook groups. I personally know people like John Panda and Lou Mangello are amazing people to listen to and talk to get inspiration. And there's so many others that you can just, if whenever you maybe don't feel you're getting support from, people that you'd expect to get support from, there's people out there that'll give it to you. And that's why there's no more excuses, right? Like that's what I'm trying to say. There's no more excuses in saying that we can do this. You can do this. You have to keep going. You have to keep that idea in mind. You have to say, okay, I got distracted. Okay, I messed up, or okay, life happened and this pulled me away from what I was wanting to go for a little bit, but I'm going to get back. I'm doing this now. The minute you stop, that's when it ends. I mean, as kind of intense as that sound, it really is true. The minute you stop pursuing that goal and that passion, that's when you say, like, what am I doing here? That's when those questions start popping in your head. What's the point? Why am I here? And I know they got real, like, solemn really fast, really dark, but I'm serious. It's the truth. And that's why it's so important to keep your goal, keep your idea, keep your dream in mind. Like I said, it doesn't have to be that you're quitting your job. It doesn't have to be something, major where it's like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell my boss, hey, you know what? No, it doesn't have to be like that. It could be that you just want to be a better mother, want to be a better husband, want to be a better employee, like whatever it is. But you just have to make that decision to say, okay, this is my goal. This is my dream. I'm going to do it. That way, when people ask, or that way, when you get those thoughts in your head, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, I love my job, and this is where I'm supposed to be. And when you can answer a question like that, it really does give you an unbelievable peace of mind that it's hard to explain unless you are actually doing it. So I understand that I kind of went off on a tangent with the terrible grammar there, but I do apologize for that. But like I said, I want to leave that in there because I think it's important to show that even though I have the power to edit things, mistakes are part of life, and that's a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's about that keep going idea. So again, guys, please be sure to follow Shannon. Go check out her Instagram. Go check out her site. If you're thinking about going to Disneyland, go get her book. I'm really excited because, like I said, my plan is to hopefully go to D23 this year, and I am planning on getting her book. So I know exactly what to expect when I'm heading over into Disneyland. So be sure to go check that out. And of course, like I said, it'll be in the show notes. Don't forget, we got daily podcasts Monday through Friday. Have a great night, day, week, and whenever you're listening to this. And as always, stay magical.
This was the Talk About the Magic podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay magical.